Chapter 2. The Jasper Gates of Kiamo. Sarima, said her younger sister, wake up, nap time's over. We have a house guest at supper, and I need to know if we have to kill a hen. There are so few left, and what we give the traveler we miss all winter in eggs. What do you think? The Dowager Princess of Arjiki's groaned. Details, she said. Can't I train you to figure out anything for yourself? Very well, snapped his sister. I shall decide, and then you can go without your morning egg when we're one short. Oh, Six, don't mind me, said Sarima. It's just that I'm scarcely awake. Who is it? Some patriarch with bad breath who plans to bore us with tales of the hunting he did 50 years ago? Why do we allow it? It's a woman, more or less, said Six. Now that's uncalled for, said Sarima, sitting up. We are none of us the blushing nymphs we once were, Six. From across the room, she saw herself reflected in the wardrobe glass. Pale as milk pudding, her still pretty face nestled in the puddles of fat that fell according to the laws of gravity. Just because you're the youngest, Six, and can still locate your waist, there's no need to be unkind. Six pouted. Well, it's just a woman then, so chicken or no? Tell me now so Fork can hack off its head and get to plucking, or we won't eat before midnight. We'll have fruit and cheese and bread and fish. Is there fish in the fish bowl, I suppose? Yes, there was. Six turned to go, but remember to say, I brought you a glass of sweet tea. It's there on your vanity. Bless you. Now tell me without sarcasm, if you please, what's our guest like, really? Green as sin, thin and crooked, older than any of us. Dressed in black like an old mont, but not all that old. I guess about, 30, 32. She won't give her name. Green? How divine, said Sarima. Divine isn't the word that comes to mind, said Six. You don't mean green with jealousy. You mean actually green? Maybe it's from jealousy, I could not say, but she is surely green. Genuine grass green. Oh la, well, I'll wear white tonight so as not to clash. Is she alone? She came in with the caravan we saw down in the valley yesterday. She stopped here with a little company of beasts, a wolf dog, a hive of bees, a youth, some crows, and a baby monkey. What will she do with all of them in the mountains in winter? Ask her yourself. Six wrinkled her nose. She made me shudder. Have said gelatin makes you shudder. When's dinner tonight? 7 chimes and a half. She turns my stomach. Six left, having run out of expressions of disgust, and Sarima had her tea in bed until her bladder complained. Six had banked up a fire and drawn the curtains, but Sarima pulled them back to look down into the courtyard. Kiamo Coat boasted corner turrets and towers, built up massive circular salients thrusting upward from the stone of the mountain itself. After the Arjiki clan had wrested the building from the Waterworks Commission, they had added to the crenellations for defense. Despite the reworkings, the plan of the house was still simple. It was built in the general shape of a U, a central hall with 2 long, narrow wings thrusting forward around a steeply pitched yard. When it rained, the water churned over the cobbles and slipped out under the carved gates of iron oak and jasper panels, past the sickly cluster of village houses nestled up against the castle's outside walls. At this hour, the courtyard was charcoal gray, cold and filthy with scraps of hay and bits of leaf flying in the wind. There was a light in the old cobbler shed and smoke spitting from the chimney that badly wanted repointing, like everything else in this decaying manse. Sarima was glad the guests hadn't been shown into the house proper. As Dowager Princess of the Arjikis, she enjoyed the privilege of welcoming a traveler into the private chambers of Kiamo. After bathing, she dressed in a white shift with white piping and put on the beautiful torque that had arrived, like a message from the other land, from her dear departed husband several months after the incident. Out of habit, Sarima shed a few tears, admiring herself within the flat embrace of his jeweled, segmented collar. If it was too dressy for its... I itinerants, Sarima could always drape a napkin over it, but she would still know it was there. Even before her tears had dried, she was humming, looking forward to the novelty of the guest. She peeped in on the children before going down. They were jumpy. Strangers always did that to them. Irji and Manek, 12 and 11, were almost old enough to want to bust out of this nest of venomous doves. Irji was soft and cried a lot, but Manek was a little bantam, always had been. If she let them go off to the grasslands with the clan in the summer migration, they both might have their throats slit. There were too many clansmen to claim leadership for themselves or their sons, so Sarima had kept her boys near. Her daughter, Noor, long-legged and thumb-sucking at 9 years old, still needed a lap to crawl into before going to sleep. Dressed for the meal, Sarima was inclined to forbid it, but relented. Noor had a delicate lisp, and she said, "Running in the wane for running in the rain." She befriended stones and candles and blades of grass that grew against all logic in the cracks of the coping stones around the windows. She sighed and rubbed her face against the torque and said, "There's a boy too, Mama. We played with him in the mill yard." "What's he like? Is he green too?" "Nah, he's all right. He's a big baby, fat and strong, and Manek was throwing stones at him to see how far they would bounce off him. He let him do it. Maybe if you're so fat it doesn't hurt? I doubt it. What's his name?" "Lear. Is that a queer name?" "It sounds foreign. And his mother?" "I don't know her name, and I don't think she's his mother. He wouldn't say when we asked. Irji said he must be a bastard. Lear said he didn't care. He's nice." She moved her right thumb to her mouth, and with her left hand felt the cloth of Sarima's gown just below the torque until she found a nipple, and she ran her thumb over it lovingly as if it were a small pet. Manek made him pull down his trousers so he could make sure his thing wasn't green. Sarima disapproved, on the grounds of hospitality if nothing else, but was compelled to ask, "And what did you see?" "Oh, well, you know." Noor turned her head into her mother's neck and then sneezed from the powder with which Sarima kept her chins from chafing. "Stupid-looking boy's thing. Smaller than Manek and Irji, but not green. I was so bored I didn't look much." "Neither would I. That was very rude." "I didn't make him do it. Manek did." "Well, no more of that. Now let's have a story before sleeping. I got to go down soon, so a short one. What do you want to hear, my little one?" "I want to hear the story of the witch and the fox babies." With less drama than usual, Sarima rattled through the tale of how the 3 fox babies were kidnapped and caged and fed to fatness in preparation for a cheese and foxling casserole, and how the witch went to get fire from the sun to cook them. But when the witch came back to her cave, exhausted and in possession of Father Flame, the foxlings outwitted her by singing a lullaby to make her sleep. When the witch's arm fell, the flame from the sun burned the door off the cage, and out the foxlings ran. Then they howled down old Mother Moon to come and stand as an unmovable door in the entrance of the cave. Sarima ended with a traditional back and forth. "And there the wicked old witch stayed for a good long time." "Did she ever come out?" asked Noor, doing her line from an almost hypnagogic state. "Not yet," said Sarima, kissing and biting her daughter in the wrist, which made them both giggle, and then lights out. The stairs from Sarima's private apartment ran without railings down into the castle keep, hugging first one wall and then, after the corner, another. She descended the first flight full of grace and self-possession, her white skirts billowing, her torquey yoke of soft colors and precious metals, her face a careful composition of welcome. At the landing she saw the traveler, sitting on a bench in an alcove looking up at her. She made it down the second flight to the flagstone level, aware of the cynicism that seethed beneath her loyal remembrance of Fierro, aware of her overbite, of her lost prettiness, of her weight, of the silliness of being a doyenne over nothing but irritating children and backbiting younger sisters, of the thin pretense of authority that scarcely masked her fear of the present, the future, and even the past. "How do you do?" she managed. "You are Sarima," said the woman, standing, her stalactite of chin thrust forward like a rotted Swede. Likely to be," she said, glad of the torque. It seemed like a shield now to protect her heart from being punctured by the chin. "Greetings to you, my friend." "Yes, I am Sarima, mistress of Kiamo. Where do you come from, and how are you called?" "I come from the back of the wind," said the woman, "and I have given up my name so often I don't like to bring it out again for you." "Well, you are welcome here," said Sarima as smoothly as she could. "But if we have nothing else to call you by, you will have to be Auntie. Will you come in to dine? We'll be serving out soon." "I won't eat until we speak," said the guest. "Not under your roof." "In false pretenses for one night. I'd rather lie at the bottom of the lake. Sarima, I know who you are. I went to school with your husband. I've known about you for a dozen years or so." "Of course," said Sarima. Then, things clinking, the old treasured details of her husband's life came rushing up. "Of course Fiyero talked of you, and of your sister Nessie, right? Nessa Rose. And of the glamorous Glinda, with whom I think he was a little in love, and the playful inverted boys, and Alaric, and solid old Bach. I had wondered if that happy time of his life was always to be self-contained, always his and never mine. You are good to have come to call. I should have liked a season or two at Shiz, but I didn't have the brains, I fear, nor my family the money. I would have remembered you in a minute. Well, the color of your skin. There's nothing like it, is there? Or am I too provincial?" "No, it's unique," said the guest. "Before we say 10 sentences of polite nonsense to each other, I have to tell you something, Sarima. I think I was the cause of Fiyero's death." "Well, you're not the only one," interrupted Sarima. "It's a national pastime out here, blaming oneself for the death of a prince. An opportunity for public grieving and atonement, which I secretly believe people enjoy just a little bit." The guest twisted her fingers, as if to pry open a space for herself and Sarima's opinions. "I can tell you how. I want to tell you. Not unless I want to hear it, which is my prerogative. This is my house, and I choose to hear what I want." "You must hear it, so that I can be forgiven," said the woman, turning her shoulders this way and that, almost as if she were a beast of burden with an invisible yoke on her. Sarima did not like to be ambushed in her own home, time enough to consider these sudden implications. When she felt up to it, and not until, she reminded herself that she was in charge, and thus she could afford to be kind. "If I remember rightly," said Sarima, her mind was racing with memory, "you're the one, Fiyero talked of you, of course. Elphaba, that's it. You're the one who didn't believe in the soul. I remember that much, so what to forgive, dearie? I know you're travel weary. It's impossible to get here without being travel weary, and you need a good hot meal and a few nights of sleep, and we'll chat some morning next week." Sarima linked her arm with Elphaba's. "But I'll preserve your name from them if you like," said Sarima. She walked Elphaba through the tall warped oak doors into the dining hall and called, "Look who's here, Auntie Guest." The sisters were standing beside their chairs, hungry and curious and impatient. 4 had the ladle in the tureen stirring, 6 had just in hostile pews, 2 and 3, the twins, looked piously at their prayer cards. 5 was smoking and blowing concentric rings toward the platter of yellow eyeless fish they had dragged up from the underground lake. "Sisters, rejoice! An old friend of Fiyero's has come to share fond memories and live in our lives. Welcome her as you do me." Perhaps an unfortunate choice of words, as the sisters all resented and despised Sarima. Why had she married someone who would die so early and condemn them not just to spinsterhood, but to deprivation and denial? Elphaba didn't speak through the entire meal or look up from her plate. She devoured the fish, though, and the cheese and the fruit. Sarima deduced from her eating habits that she had lived under a rule of silence at meals, and wasn't surprised, later, to hear about the Monterey. They took a glass of precious sherry in the music room, and 6 entertain them with a wobbling nocturne. The guests looked miserable, which made the sisters happy. Sarima sighed. The one thing that could be said about the guest was this. She was older than Sarima. Perhaps, for the short while of her stay, Elphaba would come out of that sulk and lend an ear to hear how troubling and trying Sarima's life was. It would be nice to chat with someone not in the family. A week passed before Sarima said to 3, "Please tell our auntie guest that I'd like to see her tomorrow for 11s in the solar." Sarima thought that Elphaba had had enough time now to get the measure of things. The suffering green woman was in some sort of slow-motion thrall or fit. She moved jerkily, stalking about the courtyard or stamping into meals as if trying to poke holes in the flooring with her heels. Her elbows were always bent at right angles, and her hands clenched and unclenched themselves. Sarima felt stronger than ever, which wasn't very. It did her some good to have a contemporary around, however thwarted she might be. The sisters disapproved of Sarima's cordiality, but the higher mountain passes were already closed for the winter, and you just couldn't send a stranger packing into the treacherous valleys. The sisters conferred in their parlor as they busied themselves knitting hateful gray potholders for the undeserving poor at Lulinimas. She's sick, they said. She's inert, unfinished. Even more than they were was the unspoken corollary, and immensely gratifying notion, she's darned. And is that fat balloon of a boy or son, or a child slave, or is he one of her familiars? Behind Sarima's back they called the woman living in the cobble-shed anti-witch, echoing the old legends of the Cambricia, which were viler and more persistent in the Celts than elsewhere in Oz. It was Menek, Sarima's middle child, who was the most curious. One morning, as the boys all stood on a battlement peeing over the side of a game poor Nor had to pretend no interest in, Maddox said. "What if we peed on Auntie? Would she scream?" "She'd turn you into a toad," said Lear. "No, I mean, would it hurt her? She looks like water gives her the eggs and shakes. Does she even drink it? Or does it make her insides hurt?" Lear, not especially observant child, said, "I think she doesn't drink it. Sometimes she washes things, but she uses sticks and brushes. We better not pee on her." "And what does she do with all those bees and the monkey? Are they magic?" "Yeah," said Lear. "What kind of magic?" "I don't know." They stepped away from the dizzying drop and Nor came running up. "I have a magic straw," she said, holding up a brown bristle from the witch's broom. "Is the broom magic?" said Manik to Lear. "Yes, it can sweep the floor real fast." "Can it talk? Is it enchanted? What does it say?" They got more interested, and Lear bloomed and blushed under their curiosity. "I can't tell. It's a secret." "Is it still a secret if we push you off the tower?" Lear considered. "What do you mean? Will you tell us or we'll do it?" "Don't push me off the tower, you oafs. If the broom is magic, it'll come flying by and save you. Besides, you're so fat you probably bounce." Irji and Nora laughed at that despite themselves. It made a very funny picture in their minds. "We only want to know what secrets the broom says to you," said Manik with a big smile. "So tell us, or we'll push you off." "You're not being nice, he's company," said Nor. "Come on, let's go find some mice in the pantry and make friends." "In a minute. Let's push Lear off the roof first." "No," said Nor, beginning to cry. "You boys are so mean. Are you sure that broom is magic, Lear?" But Lear by now didn't want to say any more. Manik tossed... Manik tossed a pebble off the roof, and it seemed a very long time before the ping of impact. Lear's face had, in a matter of moments, developed deep black pockets under their eyes. He held his hands down by his sides like a traitor at a court-martial. "The witch will be so mad at you that she will hate you," Lear said. "I don't think so," said Manik. taking a step forward. She won't care. She likes the monkey more than she likes you. She won't even notice if you're dead. Lear gasped for air. Although he had just peed, the front of his baggy trousers turned dark with wet. Look, Irji, said Manik, and his older brothers looked. He's not even very good at being alive, is he? It's not like it would be much of a loss. Come on, Lear, tell me. What did the darn broom say to you? Lear's upper torso was going in and out like a bellows. He whispered, the broom told me that you're all going to die. Oh, is that all? Said Menak. We already knew that. Everybody dies. We knew that already. You did? Said Lear, who hadn't. Come on, Irji said. Come on, let's catch some mice in the pantry and we can cut out their tails and use Nor's magic straw to prick their eyes. No, said Nor, but Irji had swiped the straw from her. Menak and Irji went clattering, loose limbs as marionettes, along the parapet and down the stairs. With a huge, aggrieved sigh, Lear composed himself and adjusted his clothes and followed them like a condemned dwarf laborer in the emerald mines. Nor stayed behind, her arms folded defiantly, her chin working with frustration. But she spit over the edge and felt better and chased after the boys. At mid-morning, Sig showed the guests into the cellar. With a smirk behind Auntie's back, she deposited a tray of cruel little biscuits, hard as slate, on a table covered with a carpet gone brown and patternless. Sarima, having made her way through what she could of her daily spiritual ablutions, felt ready. You've been here a week and it's likely to be longer, said Sarima, allowing Six to pour out some gall-root coffee before dismissing her. The trail north is snowed in by now, and there's not a safe haven between here and the plains. The winters are hard in the mountains, and while we can make do with our stores and our own company, we treasure a change. Milk? I do not know exactly what you had intended. Once you have visited us sufficiently, I mean. There are rumors of caves in these kells, Elphaba said, almost more to herself than to Sarima. I lived for some years at the cloister of St. Glinda in the Shell Shallows, outside of the Emerald City. Dignitaries would visit, and while we were often under a vow of silence, nonetheless people would talk of what they knew. Monastic cells. I had thought when I was done here that I might take myself to a cave and set up housekeeping, said Sarima, as if this were as usual as marrying and bearing babies. Some do it, I know. There's an old hermit on the western slope of Broken Bottle. That's a peak nearby. They say he's been there for some years and has reverted to a more primitive moment of nature. Of his nature, I mean. A life without words, Elfie said, looking at her coffee and not drinking it. They say this hermit has forgotten about personal hygiene, said Sarima, which, given how the boys smell when they go on watch for a couple of weeks, strikes me as nature's defense against marauding beasts. I didn't expect to be here for a long time, Alfie said, twisting her head to her neck like a parrot and looking at Sarima in an odd way. Oh, beware, thought Sarima carefully, though she tended to like this guess. Beware, she's taking the direction of a discussion into her own hands. This won't do, but the guest went on. I had thought that I would have a night or two, maybe 3, and could find myself a hidey hole before winter set in. I was working on the wrong calendar. I was thinking of how and when winter came to Shiz and the Emerald City, but you're 6 weeks ahead here. Ahead in the autumn and behind in the spring, alas, said Sarima. She took her feet off her hassock and placed them on the floor, flatly, to indicate seriousness. Now, my new friend, there are some things I need to say to you. I have things too, Elfie said, but Sarima went on this time. You will think me as an unpolished person, and you are right, of course. Oh, when I was selected to be a child bride, a good governess was hired from Gillikin to teach me and my sisters how to use verbs and pronouns and salad forks. And lately I had begun to master reading, but most of what I picked up about polite behavior was from what Fierro was good enough to instruct me in when he returned from his education. No doubt he makes social mistakes. You have every right to snigger behind my back. I am not given to sniggering, snapped Elphaba. as it may be. But I still have opinions, and I'm observant even if unschooled. Despite my sheltered life, married at the age of 7, as you may know, raised and reared behind castle curtain walls, I trust my own sense of things and won't be dissuaded. So let me continue, she said, as Elphaba tried to interrupt. There's plenty of time and the sun is nice here, isn't it? My little hideaway. It seems to me that you have come here to, shall we say, relieve yourself of some sad business or other. You have a look about you. Don't be startled, my dear. If there's a look I do recognize, it's the look of someone carrying a burden. Remember, I listen to my sisters year in and year out, and they graciously share with me all the ways they hate me and why. She smiled, amused at her own wit. You want to throw down your burden, throw it down at my feet or across my shoulders. You want perhaps to weep a little, to say goodbye, and then to leave. And when you leave here, you will walk right out of the world. I will do no such thing, said Elphie. You will indeed, even if you don't know it. You will have nothing left to tie you to the world. But I know my own limits, Auntie guessed, and I know what you're here for. You told me. You told me in the hall. You said you felt you were responsible for Fiero's death. Don't. Just don't. This is my home. I am a nominal dowager princess of Duck S, but I have a right to hear, and I have a right not to hear, even to make a traveler feel better. I don't. But I don't want to burden you, Sarima. I want to unburden you with the truth. If you permit me, you are the larger, the lighter. Forgiveness blesses the donors as well as the receiver. I'll overlook that remark about my being the larger, said Sarima, but I still have the right to choose, and I think you wish me ill. You wish me ill and you don't even know it. You want to punish me for something, maybe for not being a good enough wife to Fiero. You wish me ill and you fool yourself to think it's some therapeutic course of tablets. Do you know how he died at least, said Elphaba. I know it was a violent action. I know his body was never found. I know it was in a little love nest, said Sarima, for a minute losing her resolve. I don't care to know who it was exactly, but I have heard enough about that vile Sir Chuffrey to have my strong opinion. Sir Chuffrey? I said no. I said no more. No, I have an offer to make of you, Auntie, if you will have it. You and the boy may move into the southeast tower if you like. There are a couple of big round rooms with high ceilings and good light, and you'll be out of that drafty cobble shed and warmer. You'll have your own staircase to come and go into the main hall, and you won't bother the girls and they won't trouble you. You can't stay in that cobble shed all winter. The boy has been looking pale and blubbery. I think he's always cold. You're there on the condition, I'm afraid, that you accept my firmest word on these matters. I don't care to discuss my husband or the affairs of his death with you. Elphaba looked horror-struck and beaten. I have no choice but to accept, she said, at least for the time being. But I warn you, I intend to befriend you so thoroughly that you will change your mind. And I do think you need to hear things. You need to talk about them as I do, and I can't leave into the wilderness until I have your solemn promise of enough, said Sarima. Call the porter from the gatehouse and have him bring your luggage to the tower. Come, I'll show you. You haven't touched your coffee. She stood. For an awkward moment there was respect and suspicion, in equal measure, simmering on the carpet like the dust in the sunbeams. Come, Sarima said more softly. At the very least you need to be warm. You must be able to say that much of us country mice here at Kiamo Ko.